All right. Hello, everyone. This is CJ with Rogue News, and I am just super excited today because today we are launching our inaugural Rogue 420. As we've shared on previous shows, we're really excited about expanding out Rogue News, different platforms, everything that we're working on. So this is our inaugural issue, and I have a great guest today. We're going to talk a lot about cannabis, a lot about hemp, and again, Rogue News. So we'll be launching our new platform, but for the time being, it's still Rogue Money. So you can obviously follow our work on Steemit, at the Rogue Money on Twitter, our Facebook page, iTunes, about anywhere and everywhere that you can find Rogue News now. So anyway, my guest today is Brandon Pitcher. Brandon is the co-founder and managing member of Blue Circle Development. Brandon is an award-winning developer, change agent, and educator, sharing his passion for social and ecological entrepreneurship, systems thinking, and sustainability for over 15 years. Brandon, again, is the managing member of Blue Circle Development, a new partnership between multiple companies, including the Stevia Corporation, the
Stevia.
Stevia Corporation, Eltron Research and Development, created to add value out the supply chain of the industrial and medical cannabis markets. He is also an active board member of the National Cannabis Chamber of Commerce in Colorado. Brandon, we talked on the phone the other day. I was just very excited to get you on the show, to get you interviewed and everything. So Brandon, welcome to Rogue 420.
Thank you. I look forward to this interview.
Excellent, excellent. Well, let's jump right into it. So obviously, looking at your bio, everything you've been involved with the cannabis industry, it's a very exciting time in terms of all the things that are going on. And one of the things that I always find when you start talking about hemp, you start talking about cannabis, is that I'm always interested in learning how people got started. So Brandon, share with our listeners how you got started in the hemp and cannabis industry.
Okay, I kind of started very young. In the mid '90s, I was exposed to the plant through some scientists and researchers in Indiana who were actually studying the plants under a DEA license and things like that at a young age. And then I got exposed, to hemp and what it could do, and its values in the industrial supply chain. But I never got to really use the plant. I learned the theory, but you weren't really allowed to work with it or touch the plant too much. And then I got to travel the world when I got involved in sustainability, and I went around the world looking for what are the best inputs for industrial uses from the five kings of nature, say bacteria, algae, plants, animals, and fungus, and look at how we could utilize those to solve some of our industrial challenges for sustainability. And as I went around the world in other countries, from Sweden, to Russia, to Japan, everybody kept saying that hemp and cannabis was the best, industrial plants. And it just started to make so much sense to me that we should be using this in a time like now, when we're going through the sixth great mass extinction and all these challenges that we're facing as a species. But we should be able to use the most, industrially useful plants that we have. Then it became legal in 2014 under the Farm Bill to do research and some commercialization in the United States. And that's when we decided that we would, join and invest in the business and get involved in the industry. So I moved to Colorado. I started farming. We did certified organic farms. And from there, we produced the nation's first certified organic CBD oil. And so we actually got USDA certification on the farm and on the extraction process. So we have both of that, so that we got the first oil certified to do that. So that was, to me, exciting, and that's kind of my foray to get into the industry. But now we've made investments in several companies that I can talk about each one if you would like. But from genetics to farm management, to biocides for powdery mildew and different things like that to maintain the plant maintenance, chemistry, to different extraction technologies that we're working with, and we also work with a company called Evo Hemp, which is one of the largest hemp food suppliers in the nation. I believe they're the third most distributed in the nation right now.
Wow, yeah, and again, just going back to it, that makes perfect sense. And in part, we're not going to, go all the way back in history in terms of hemp and its industrial use, the farming use. But do you mind sharing just, briefly about the history of hemp and, you know, why did it become so taboo, and where we are now?
Well, I think, the history is very well documented. It's one of the most used plants throughout history. I mean, you could make a case that, America would never be colonized without hemp because we would not have been able to sail from, one continent to the other because we use, hemp ropes and hemp sails and things like that. We would land in places, plant hemp, let it grow, and then use that for more ropes and canvas and move on to the next place. So you could there's a make a case that it's allowed us to develop the planet, and then the most written about, one of the oldest texts, I believe in Chinese, there's a term for it, like Pax Medical or something like Medica or something like that. I can't remember the term, but it was one of the first documents that claim hemp almost as a panacea. I don't agree that it's a panacea, but I do believe that it has a lot of value. And I mean, I see it firsthand with the products we make in cancer patients on a daily basis. That they're responding in pretty miraculous ways. I don't know that it's curing cancer, but it's definitely making their quality of life better for them.
Absolutely. So,
But
Brandon, what you're telling me is that hemp was never originally intended on people just getting high, and some of the stereotypes around that.
no. I mean, I don't. The history of the plant was probably a low THC plant to begin with, and over time we realized, oh, this is a good one for certain effects that we like, and we've did selective breeding over the years to come to what we have now. But traditionally, hemp has been more industrial use. I mean, you could look at it from what they say the one of the Declarations of Independence was written on hemp, or whatever, the proto whatever. Some of these documents, that are, and we have presidents that have used it or grown it and stated about it. I mean, so the America itself has a long history with it. But the reason why it became illegal was one of the questions you asked, or the reason why we don't use it anymore was, in the 1930s when hemp was known to be a big competition with major industry. It was very disruptive, and so they banned it, and they used the fact that people were getting high, and colluded that with and confused people with what the plant was, and so that's where the propaganda started, and then they got rid of it. But it had nothing to do with drugs. It had nothing to do with getting intoxicated. It had to do with direct competition with the industrial powers of the
Right.
time.
And so very well said. I mean, that was terrific, and I'm so excited about this industry going forward just because of its applications, its use. I mean, there is just so much that can be done. So let's start with the industrial side because I really want to get into at Rogue. We're all about disruptive technologies, disruptive things that are coming in to economy. That's just how we do things at Rogue. So let's talk a little bit around the industry side and share some of the companies, share some of the projects, and the really great things that you're working on, Brandon.
Okay. I'm more on the industrial side. The people that talk about hempcrete a lot. I don't like that term, but there is one company that I really like their product, and it's called Just Biofiber. JustBiofiber.com. If you want to take a look at them, and they make a pretty sophisticated building material that looks like a Lego block. We can, but it's you basically can use stonemasons and bricklayers can utilize this. So I find that to be much more valuable to take to market and for commercial uses than just say traditional hempcrete where they pour it on site, which is not to me that conducive towards mass production. And so we're working with them, and we've consulted with them over the last couple of years on several things, from life cycle assessments to different opportunities in developing countries and things like that. But that's one technology that I think can do very great things if used on a mass scale. That's utilizing the hemp hurd from the plants, and to do so you have to process plants, and so you have to separate the fiber from the hurd to be able to use the plant's utmost value, and that hurd is what you use to make the building materials, and then the fiber we can use to make things like plastics, or car parts, or other pretty unique things, graphene. There's some pretty exciting things you can do with this plant, and there are a lot of companies that are working on multiple things. We work with another company, the Cannabis Car, with a guy named Bruce Dietzen, and he has made car panels, a car body, out of hemp fibers. If you look at his car, it's a used car that I think is an old Mazda Miata that he reconverted, but he made the body and the frame out of hemp, and he shows pictures of him hitting it with a hammer, and it's not denting it, it's so strong and resilient, and again, I think there's a website for that, and I don't remember that off the top of my head, but I know if you take out Cannabis Car, that'll pop up, because that's they go on tour, they have a documentary, of it. It's a pretty amazing technology, and those are the type of things, that can easily, help change the world, but we got to scale up and make hemp more affordable. Currently, there's not enough acreage in the United States, and there's not enough processing to justify, most of these materials hitting the mass market. But it's possible, and the technologies exist. It's just more of a political and spiritual will of the people to make it happen.
Yeah, that's definitely true, and eventually, before we end the interview, we'll definitely get into the whole advocacy side, talk about what some of the current challenges are regarding hemp and cannabis, the industry in part. I also know, Brendan, that you're very passionate around the medicinal side, medical cannabis, the CBD. So, for our listeners, let's just start with some of the basics. So what is CBD oil?
It's pretty much, it's cannabidiol is the term, so it's another one of the more popular components of the cannabis plant, especially on the hemp side, because we're not allowed to have THC. You have to be 0.3% THC or less to be considered hemp. Don't worry about that definition. It's artificial and was made by, some guy, in the 70s, but really doesn't make any sense. But it doesn't have any science or logic behind that number, but that is what it is. So we have to work within the parameters of the law. So we grow for CBD, and CBD has become very popular for many things, from seizures and epilepsy for children, and even adults. But children are one of the big ones. You hear of Charlotte's Web and Haley's Hope and all this stuff. They kind of market towards children, so it's very effective. I've been utilizing it right now, and I'll just give a couple anecdotes because that's the best I know. There's not a whole lot of clinical trials that they've allowed us to do. We've been working on funding some of those. We've been working on people who are working on those as well. And we think we're getting more and more will be coming online, but they take time and effort to be truly validated in the United States. But currently, anecdotally, I sent some to a cancer patient in Indiana, and he talks about a day or two after taking it, he's now smiling and getting out of bed, and he's happy again. And he did before. He was kind of sad and depressed with the situation, but after taking this for a couple of days, he said he's got out of bed for the first time, and he's able to hang out with his family, and he's able to eat, and he's able to partake in life again. So it makes the quality of life, I know, much better. I don't know, again, if it cures anything, but I know that it definitely makes, the people that I'm taking it much better. Now, a friend of mine has developed a roll-on for epilepsy, because his son has epilepsy, and he rolls it on your feet, and it's a CBD-based roll-on, and he has a video on YouTube, and within 30 seconds, the child's seizures have gone away, after rolling it on his feet. And so that's something pretty amazing. And the things you can see that are real and in front of your face, is hard to deny, And so that, to me, it's very important that this gets out to the people, and it might be just more than medicine. It might be more like a nutrient. I don't. So it might. We might want to call it more of a vitamin. Maybe get away from the term medical, even though I still use that every once in a while. But we might want to start calling it more of a nutraceutical. Or a vitamin. And so I know, and because you have an endocannabinoid system, which means you have receptors in your body from your brain to all your immune system throughout your whole body that accept these cannabinoids, and they actually need them. And so we may have a sick culture, and maybe we have all these problems because of a lack of cannabinoids, because we used to have them in our supply chain. and then we took them out about 70, 80 years ago, and now we have all of these issues that we didn't have before.
Yes, and that's something again that whenever people hear the cannabis and the CBD and its many uses, that explains why its use and how it can be utilized for a lot of different conditions. Correct?
Yeah, yeah, very much so. I mean, I see it, if it's as beneficial as we believe it is, that this probably should be just as ubiquitous as corn syrup, you know,
Right.
or sugar. You know, I mean, if this is going to help humanity in the way we believe it is, we should probably be eating a little bit of it on a daily basis.
Correct. Correct.
Uh,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think about how deficient our bodies probably are now of this, our endocannabinoid system, and it's been here for years, and we're getting some validation now. Now, in part of the actual growing, I know you're also very involved in terms of the strains, and you want to share a little bit around your efforts there.
yeah, sure. We're doing quite a bit actually, from developing our own genetics to helping other people with their genetics. We have a company called Sunrise Genetics, actually, which is doing business as Mary Gene and Hemp Gene, but we do like DNA marker assisted breeding, programs. We help people with their IP protection. If they have a good genetic that they think is special, we can validate that or prove it and help them, get some protection for that genetic and licensing rights, and maybe even some kind of patents if necessary, if they have if it's really something unique. But we have the ability to through Sunrise to do that. We do a lot of DNA work on the plant. We also have our own farm teams, where I think this year we're managing 4 farms, 3 in Colorado and 1 on a Native American tribe. I won't name the state, but we are working with more prominent Native Americans right now on managing their farms. We provided the genetics. We went up and helped plant. We'll also help harvest, and we'll help sell the crop for them. So that way it's a successful project all around.
Excellent, excellent. And I know you just shared a little bit around it, but let's talk a little bit around Blue Circle development. So how exactly does Blue Circle help with startups, and tell us some more about your company.
Okay, well, Blue Circle, we got started. We're about a year old now. We were kind of a merger of a few different groups, Real Hemp and the Stevia Corporation, and my company, Hemp Circle Industries, and a little bit of Eltron Research here. It's a 30-year-old, material science company, research company. We have a 26,000 square foot research lab here in Boulder that we're applying to the plant right now, which is pretty exciting in some regard. Some of the things that you can see with scanning electron microscopes and a bunch of analytical equipment that most people don't have. It's just pretty cool. But Blue Circle was kind of started being as an investment company, and so we made investments in a few different groups, from the Sunrise to Evo Hemp, to the farms that we're working on, and to the oil production and things like that. So we're trying to make investments throughout the whole supply chain and get our understanding of the global picture of the business, and then move things forward from there. Blue Circle is also merging with a company now in California to produce maybe 5 to 10 million clones next year.
That's
So
exciting.
if people are interested, yeah, it's fun. It's we have a 210,000 square foot greenhouse that we're starting with, and room to grow from there if we need to and expand. But our intent is to be able to supply the nation with some of the highest quality hemp genetics possible. We're partnering with the largest propagation company in the nation already, so they've got all the infrastructure in place to do what we need to scale at a rapid pace. And from there, I think we can supply most people with probably the highest quality genetics for the best price in the nation.
That's terrific. That sounds amazing. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit around, because I know you're very involved the advocacy and the legalization as well. So what's the current state of what are the current challenges right now in regards to hemp and cannabis?
Mostly the biggest challenge is that it's a Schedule 1 drug. I mean, hemp is not a drug. I mean, I don't know anybody that's ever gotten high off of hemp, and why they've classified it as Schedule One is because they know that it is that disruptive of a plant for the industry. It's not just people getting high, and not just medicine that it disrupts. It's the paper industry, it's the clothing industry, it's the construction industry. It's pretty much all industries we've set up, and they know that it's direct competition. So we're working with different lawmakers and policymakers, especially my partner George. He does a lot of that work. I'm not the most patient guy when it comes to politics. I love to help and support it, but sometimes I get a little impatient.
I completely get that. Yeah.
But as an entrepreneur, so we want things to move faster than most people do. And then so it's good. But we're working on this right now. It's called the Industrial Hemp Farming Act, I believe, and that's a bill by Representative Jamie Comer out of Kentucky. He was their head of Department of Ag when hemp got started, and he's now a U.S. congressman, and he's got this bill that seems to be gaining quite a bit of traction, in Washington. So if one thing everybody should do is call their senators and their congresspeople about the Industrial Hemp Farming Act and let them know you want it passed, and to be pro for that. And that's mainly to remove it from a Schedule One, and we can start to treat this plant like it really is, which is more like broccoli or tomatoes than it is marijuana, or heroin or whatever they classify it as. Doesn't make sense. But we need to get that out there, and I think that will happen. And it may happen this year. They may actually pass it this year because it's getting bipartisan support. But I don't know. Eventually, if this is the one, this is the year or not. But we know it's coming, and it's inevitable that it happens at some point. It's just a matter of when.
Right, and that's very exciting, and I think what you said was very important in terms of actually getting the rescheduling completed. What you hear a lot of legislatures say is that there needs to be
not rescheduling, CJ, descheduling.
Descheduling, yes, thank you, descheduling. And a lot of the times when people are out there in the advocates, they say there needs to be more research, there needs to be done, but currently it's limited on any research that can be done here in the United States because of the scheduling. Correct?
Correct. How do you get supply? How do you get? If you look at was it Dr. Sue Sisley's, PTSD research, and they had to buy it through the federal government, and they send you stems and leaves and seeds instead of flower and bud that people smoke, because they're specifically sabotaging the research, your federal government's bad when they do stuff like that, that something's dirty if they're going to be playing that game, So, and they've done that for many years with this plant. So they will send bad crops to get studied or tested, things they know that aren't going to work, and I have no real medicinal value, and then, but instead they need to be letting people research what they're actually getting from the dispensary, because there's plenty of product out there to research. There's more now than there's ever been in history, it's not hard to find stuff to research, but they don't let you access what's there because it's not a part of the federal program.
Right, correct. Yeah. So, and any advice to any of our listeners, perhaps that are entrepreneurs and looking at getting interested in the hemp cannabis industry, what do you suggest? Any good sounding principles that could help them in their businesses?
Yeah, call me and hire me.
I like that.
Yeah, no, the best thing, is just start small, don't overextend yourself, if you don't know how to grow the plant, learn how to grow it first. The plant is not as easy to grow as people say, especially when you're growing for, say, artisanal flowers or, certain type of quality of flower, or product, it's not as simple as just throwing a seed out and letting it grow. You need to pay attention to what you're doing and your farming practices, so it's always best if you don't know what you're doing, hire somebody that can teach you so you don't make the same mistakes, because it can be very costly making mistakes.
Correct. Yeah. No. Great advice there. And then, what else would you like our listeners to learn? Anything that's currently on your radar as far as either legislation? I know you just mentioned one, but what else would you like to share with our audience?
Well, just talk to people if you want to be an advocate for it. If you just want to see it, just tell people the truth, and talk. Education has been the key. to the success so far of getting this thing turned around, going and talking to your politicians and letting them know that this is nothing to be afraid of, that, planting hemp in your community is not going to destroy it or cause issues. It may actually, enrich it and enliven it to, be inspired to do something different, but it's not something that's going to take away from your child's, ability to learn or whatever in school. I mean, it's a good thing, it is very beneficial. And with the challenges this country faces and the world faces, I don't know that we're going to be able to solve the problems without this plant.
No, very very well said. No, I completely agree in terms of looking at not jumping too much in the political and geopolitical aspect of it, but my gosh, when you think about currently, do you have any statistics as far as currently the sales, the revenue of the cannabis industry?
Well, marijuana is huge. It's the multi-million, 20-30 billion dollars a year, or whatever. But hemp currently, with hemp foods and hemp products, last year they come in around 625 million or so in sales of imported crops. I think that was in 2015. That number, growing quite rapidly. And now with CBD sales coming online now, that number's, going to push us over $1 billion pretty soon. And then they believe by 20, I think I read by 2021 or something like that, they predict it to be a multi-billion-dollar market.
Excellent, excellent, very good. So, Brandon, how can people learn more about Blue Circle? Plug your website. What other else would you
Mm-hmm.
like to share about your company?
All right. Well, it's bluecircledevelopment.com. All one word, bluecircledevelopment.com. And we're a development company, so we like to help people develop projects. We help them put things together. And sometimes we'll bring funding, sometimes we won't bring funding, but we can always bring other resources, whether that's genetics or some expertise and from science and all the way to just practical implementation or product formulations. Whatever you might need, we have staff to do all of that and to support our clients and to support the industry.
Excellent, very good. Well, I want to thank you so much for our the interview today. Again, this is CJ with Rogue 420. Very exciting time. Stay tuned. We will soon be getting our page up, linking it directly to Rogue News. We'll have all different articles related to the industry. It's a very exciting time, and then also appreciate your comments. So leave your comments in the from the interview. Any suggestions that you have. And then I'll make sure in the interview links to post information directly to Blue Circle Development as well. So this is CJ. Brandon, thank you so much for your time today, and we are over and out.